Good afternoon to everyone. And on the outset, I thank all the faculties for being part of this subspecialty day program, which is the initial initiative of AIOS. Thank you once again. So, my topic for today is orbital neoplasia, recognizing the red flags. I have no financial disclosures. These are my affiliation. So just taking you through a few cases, which was a learning lesson for me, and I hope it's a learning lesson for the rest who are watching us as well, especially the general ophthalmologists. So this was a 10-year-old girl who presented with a recurrent eyelid swelling on and off for the past 4 to 6 months. So the right hand picture is when I saw her, but then the parents had shared the previous picture telling no, she does have severe swelling. It comes one day and then it persists for like 4 to 5 days and then it disappears. So because of this kind of a presentation with a little bit of swelling when she presented to our clinical service, we kind of thought of keeping under observation and then in the next episode probably to evaluate her radiologically. And then a CT scan was advised. And this is what we found in the CT scan in the subsequent visit, where there is a lesion which is situated in the superior orbit. And what was very striking over here is a lesion which was presenting like a preseptal cellulitis that was diagnosed elsewhere and treated conservatively, had even a bony erosion. And what you see here is the dural exposure over here. So in a child who presents with recurrent swelling like a preseptal cellulitis, and when you go and image a patient and then you find the bony erosion, there are two things that mostly we keep in mind, especially if it is superior. Well, a tuberculous etiology has to be ruled out. And another thing is another granuloma, which is eosinophilic granuloma. And well, of course, malignant lesion has to be ruled out because any bony erosion is equal to some malignancy which is growing there, because malignancy is usually invasive. So these were the things that we kept in mind, first as a tuberculous granuloma, orbital tuberculosis, and eosinophilic granuloma, or very unlikely to be a malignancy because it was on and off and it was not progressing. So, well, this was what we found. It was a very, very it was a very friable lesion which was found in the superior orbit after elevating the periorbita and the periosteum over here. And definitely there was bony erosion even present, and that was a dural exposure that we could see. And histopathologically, it came out as an eosinophilic granuloma. And this is after 1 week post-operatively, and this is after 6 months post-operative. Systemic evaluation was done in this patient. Eosinophilic granuloma can be associated even with the lethal myeloid leukemia in children. A bone scan was done. She was systemically absolutely normal. So systemic association is very, very important to be ruled out in this particular case. And as you can see here, at 6 months of follow-up, radiologically, there is absolute reformation and bony remodeling of the superior orbit, where the dura was completely covered with a healed bone over there without any lesion or recurrence. In fact, she also received a local triamcinolone acetonide injection as well, which is a standard of care, accepted standard of care in eosinophilic granuloma. Yet another case which was diagnosed. So you saw a preseptal cellulitis presenting as an orbital lesion. This case was diagnosed and treated as orbital cellulitis, again in a pediatric patient, a 10-year-old girl with proptosis. She complained of diplopia. In fact, there was a rapid progression. The disease was progressing even with systemic antibiotics and systemic treatment, although there was not significant pain which was against orbital cellulitis, although she says there is some kind of discomfort in the eye. So orbital cellulitis, any inflammation or infection is usually associated with pain, but she didn't have that. So in fact, she definitely needed a radiological evaluation. So children presenting with preseptal cellulitis and orbital cellulitis, if it's recurring and if it's progressing, radiological imaging is very, very important. And this is what we found: a large lesion. It is a triradiate lesion involving the orbit, the lateral portion of the orbit, with bony erosion, also involving the temporal fossa and the temporal lobe. So, well, again, triradiate lesion, we all know there are few differential diagnoses. Of course, we think of malignancy, and that's the first thing that comes into our mind. So, it could be a neuroblastoma, PNET, sphenoid wing meningioma, which is rare in children, a plasmacytoma, again, rare in children, even a leukemia or lymphoma. And what came out in our biopsy was an Ewing sarcoma, the PNET, where immunohistochemistry, detailed immunohistochemistry was done. She was systemically evaluated with PET scan, and fortunately, it was within normal limits, and it was a localized primary Ewing sarcoma. So, what I want to say here is, well, she underwent the entire cycle of treatment including chemotherapy, radiation, and then she's doing fine. She's actually under 2 years of follow-up without any recurrence. So talking about pediatric patient, preseptal cellulitis and orbital cellulitis in children should not always be considered as infective or inflammatory. So there are neoplasms, there are common neoplasms or rare neoplasm which can present in the orbit of children, which will definitely need radiological evaluation. So it's always better to evaluate the orbit with an imaging rather than treating them systemically if there is no response or progression of the disease. Now, coming to adult patient, this is a 34-year-old gentleman who again had this fullness of the periocular area, as you can see here in the left eye. Initially, he was treated as orbital inflammatory disease, in the previous establishment and organization. And he says that there had been responses with the steroids, but then again, after stopping the steroids, again the lesion recurs back, and this is actually a very increased version of what he had shown the initial pictures to be. In fact, there is a very evident mass which is sitting in the supromedial orbit over here, and he has never been radiologically evaluated. The orbit has never been looked into. It was only the clinical evaluation and treatment which was going on. So on the radiological evaluation in the CT scan, you can see this large lesion which is almost wrapping around the eyeball. So this is for the general ophthalmologist who's on this platform over here. Any lesion in the orbit which is wrapping around the globe, the first, the second, and the third diagnosis that we oculoplasty orbit specialists think about is lymphoma. You can see that supromedially the lesion is wrapping around, and in fact even going almost lateral superiorly over the eyeball. And this in fact was diagnosed as non-Hodgkin B cell lymphoma, which was treated as an idiopathic orbital inflammatory disease for a long time. So these are the red flags of inflammation and infection, which can possibly be a neoplasia. This is yet another 50-year-old lady with eyelid drooping. In fact, she was diagnosed as a case of myositis. She was radiologically evaluated initially. She has this large, superior rectus LPS complex, which is severely enlarged over here. She was being treated with intravenous methylprednisolone, thinking it is a myositis, but then there was no response. And then we had to go in and take a biopsy when she was referred to us. And this also came as a muscle non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, this is a very interesting case. This was a lady, a 48-year-old lady, who actually came with complaints of watering for 4 months. She had a swelling of the eyelid since 1 month, nasal block, allergy, recurrent sinusitis since many years. In fact, she's under the supervision of an ENT specialist where they have detected DNS with septal thinning, and she's on treatment with ENT. She had a strong family history of cancer. Her father died of esophageal cancer, mother ovarian cancer, maternal grandmother and maternal aunt, everyone had cancer predisposition. So when you see her here, in fact, watering was the main complaint that she had. Syringing was done, it was patent. We had even done a CT DCG, which came out to be normal. I'm not sure whether it is very evident as a mass over here, but on palpation, there was an inframedial mass which was palpated. And in an MRI, it also showed a mucosal polyp in the sphenoid sinus. So we went ahead thinking that, for a biopsy for this mass. It's not really evident over here, but this is a chunk of mass that we were able to excise, and the watering that she was having was probably a mechanical compression of the lacrimal sac, which was happening over here. And this initially in histopathology was diagnosed as Rosai-Dorfman disease, and we kind of was happy about the situation because malignancy was ruled out. She was put on steroids, but after the initial course of steroids, it recurred back again. She had swelling again. And in fact, we went ahead going for a very complete, total complete panel of immunohistochemistry where there was a doubt that something is being missed. And this came out to be a natural killer T cell lymphoma. So the polyp which was sitting in his sinus, in fact, was again excised in order to confirm that, that is also a component of the natural killer T cell lymphoma, and it proved out to be the same. In fact, unfortunately, she succumbed to the disease despite chemotherapy where there was systemic. So orbital lymphoma, again, a message after these three cases, is the most common mimicker of orbital inflammation. So as a treating specialist, when such cases are presenting to you, there has to be a decision which has to be taken when you're going into and taking biopsy. So any orbital inflammation, which Seema has already pointed out, which is not responding to treatment, which is recurring, it is mandatory to go in and take a biopsy. This is a 60-year-old lady who initially was thought to have lower lid bags. In fact, she has seen everyone when it was very small lesion, and this, when she presented to me, was in fact quite large, and it was even firm in consistency. And she also felt that there is a little bit of protrusion of the right eye. In fact, this was a case of a small lymphocytic lymphoma, CLL, which was presenting, involving the anterior orbit bilaterally. So, orbit is definitely a Pandora's box. Not all lower lid bags are fat. So, a detailed evaluation, if at all you are at doubt, it's always good to take a biopsy and, and confirm the diagnosis. So 30 to 40% of biopsied inflammations are associated with a specific disorder. So the take-home message from this presentation today is a strong message that I would like to convey is orbital disease definitely requires timely referral. It has to be referred to a specialist. In that case, certain situation, you can save vision. And most of the time, when it is a lethal malignancy, you in fact land up saving life also. Thank you so much.